Thanks very much, Claire. But I think we've got a bit more than 5 minutes, haven't we? We can pad it out a little bit. We can pad it out. Well, if that's the case, there's 3 of us standing between you and lunch. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're all going to stand up. Now, I saw on tables that there's some Mentos on the tables, yeah? I want everyone to grab a Mentos and put it into their right hand. If you've eaten them all, get some from somewhere else. Right. Everyone got a Mentos in their right hand? Everyone stick their right hand in the air. Fantastic. 100% compliance. Now, is what I need you to do is I need you to put that right hand down and hold it out in the palm of your hand, that Mentos. Now, I want you to turn to the person next to you. Okay, find a partner, or if you need to, do a threesome. Any French scholars in the room? Ménage à trois. And as what I want you to do is get your left hand out and put it next to a person with their right hand out with a Mentos in it. Okay. Now, the aim of this goal is to end up with 2 Mentos in your possession. No. How did I know? How did I know that this was going to end up in absolute chaos? So, get the Mentos back in your right hand. And it will be on my mark that I ask you to steal the Mentos from your partner and or your threesome. Right. On the count of 3, you will steal the Mentos from your partner or partners. 1, 3. Okay. Next trick I'm going to get you to do is 15 push-ups. Okay, maybe not. Maybe not. Rightio. Let's get a bit serious. Just very quickly, who ended up with no Mentos? Okay, who ended up with 2 Mentos? Who ended up with their original Mentos? Okay, there is actually a bit of psychology behind this. And the idea is, are you prepared to give up something to chase something else? Do we get that? Who was focusing on the fact you wanted to take the Mentos from the other person, and who was focusing on the fact that they wanted to keep their Mentos? You wanted to take both of them, didn't you? I mean, you're already consuming. The spoils of war. Okay, now that I've got your attention, I'm going to put you to sleep. And as my topic indicates there, I'm looking at food safety culture to drive sustainability and profitability within primary production businesses. It is not the most sexiest topic in the world. And generally when I talk to growers and producers, doesn't matter whether it's here or overseas, I generally get this glazed over look in their eyes. Okay? It's one of those things that happen. But we need to move on. Where's this pointer? Here it is. So I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey as to how I ended up doing this. First of all, I ended up with a really adverse audit outcome on an audit several years ago. I was running a hydroponic cucumber facility in central Queensland and had a really poor audit outcome. And I had a bit of a reflection on that, and I considered, what do I need to do to reduce my time spent on this? So I came up, I need to get really good at it. Like super good. I need to be the best possible to reduce my time on it. And I did. I got better. And I reduced my time. The system worked. It was fantastic. Led me to the opportunity that I'm at now. This opportunity allows me to travel the country, assisting growers and helping them implement and maintain food safety management systems in the horticultural industry. It's fantastic, unless they're coming up to audit and then they get a little bit stressed. We'll talk about that later. When taking on this role in about 2018, there were several changes in the landscape when it came to food safety systems in Australia. And one of them involved the introduction of food safety culture as an auditable item or auditable element in their audit. At the time, there was very little known, and it was largely misunderstood in terms of what food safety culture was, and it's still very much a grey area now. Okay? There is no objective evidence that a primary producer can give an auditor as to whether or not they have a stringent or a good food safety culture in their business. But before we move forward and look at food safety culture further, let's talk a little bit about food safety and the why. Why is it important? I've got a question for the audience here. How many reportable food-borne illness cases were there in Australia in 2023? And anyone who was in the room yesterday cannot answer it, and Wade Mann, Nikki, you cannot answer it either. Let's throw out some numbers, people. How many do you think? 500,000. Do we have any higher bid on that? Lower at the front. Any other guesses? Come on. 10,000. Okay. Wade? No idea. Excellent. You grow a edible peel product that's considered a snack product that is not washed prior to going into its bag. Fantastic. Well, according to a Food Standards Australia and New Zealand recently released report, there were 4.7 million cases, reportable cases of foodborne illness in Australia last year. That is 1 in 6 people in Australia get sick from food every year. So I want you to look around your table of 6 and nominate the person that gets sick this year. And just hope quickly that it's not from today's lunch. No, true, it'll be great. Lunch will be great. Okay, so 1 in 6 is actually on par with what is seen in the Western world, including places like the US. 1 in 6 people report a foodborne illness every year. So now let's look about food safety culture and food safety systems. Generally, they're either by design or default. In the default position, they are generally there to ensure the minimum requirement or compliance requirement to ensure trade with a particular customer. In the design phase, they generally open up opportunities for things like continuous improvement. However, most of these systems are generally with large businesses or with corporates where they have the human capital or human resources and capacity to implement such systems. Which leads us to the challenges that small and medium-sized producers face. Firstly, they have a lack of time, generally a lack of capacity, and also they can't shift their way through the inordinate amount of technical nature that's associated, or technical aspects that's associated with these systems that they employ in their businesses. This doesn't take into account things like seasonal harvest times that could last as short as 4 weeks. Wade's fortunate. He runs a business that operates 12 months of the year and resources can be put in place to manage these things. Is Wade going to give me a nod? Yep. His cucumbers are safe. However, when we look at these types of things, a 4-week harvest period, we end up with employment issues as well. We're all struggling in agriculture with employment issues. We don't even talk about getting access to skilled labour. Generally, it's itinerant labour or transient labour that do also struggle with capacity issues. We then move on to some experiences that I've had largely across Australia and also the world, is that food safety and compliance systems are the last thing a grower thinks about at the end of the day. The very last thing, not the first thing, the very last thing. So as they say, what can we do to bend the curve, okay, to make things safer? It all starts at the top with leadership. Leaders, in their own right, need to take a bit of an assessment of their blind spots and weaknesses when it comes to the systems that they're implementing on their farms or on their businesses. Next, they need to, check my notes. They need to consider, or they need to develop a framework that assists them in managing what they're doing and ensuring that their systems not only comply, but work to the best practices available within their sector. Next, there's something that I learnt early on when I left school and I joined the military. The standard you walk past is the standard that you accept, okay? And this is always the case in leadership. They need to take that as an important component. Next, they need to communicate better. Train and explain, fantastic little term of phrase that was given to me by a production manager at a large berry farm in the UK. Employers need to instruct their staff, or need to train their staff on the processes they have within the business and why they do them. But more importantly, they need to provide them with what happens when they don't do them or follow what is in place. Next, I believe the leaders and managers need to work a little bit more on their business and not in their business. They all get caught up in that all too often. This could be reaching out and grabbing some of the resources that are available within industry. It could be going or attending food safety or food safety system workshops or the like. It could also mean reaching out to other growers in the sector and talking about food safety in a positive aspect as opposed to a negative one, and looking at practical ways to implement solutions on their property or their farm. Also, when looking at their weaknesses that they may have or their blind spots, engage consultants or professionals. Yes, they come at a cost, but how much is your time worth? If you spend hours upon hours sifting through the myriad of resources needed to maintain a strong food safety culture and a food safety system in your business, a consultant could be very cheap in implementing the processes that are needed within the business. And once those processes are concreted into the business and cemented in, you have the opportunity to delegate task. And as soon as you delegate task, you build capacity and build redundancy into your business where you can start to improve your productivity. And with that, I would like to thank my sponsor, PSP Investments, and also Nuffield Australia for this opportunity, and look forward to answering any questions over the next few days.
I think I'm switched on, so I can give you a bit of space up here.
Sure.
Andrew, 4.7 million cases for foodborne illnesses. You've shocked the room here too. That's 1 in 6 people. Why was everyone in this room shocked? Why did we not know this?
That's a difficult one to answer. Obviously, it comes back to reaching out and finding resources and looking for resources. I obviously subscribe to a number of newsletters so I can keep abreast of what's going on in that space. And it is quite shocking. It's even shocking to think that only a few years ago it was 4.1 million and now it's actually grown. I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago, and Wade was also there as well, and Bianca as well. I noticed she was there as well. And we had Giannis, sorry, thank you, I was going to get it, from the US there. He is pretty much the father of food safety culture, worked for the FDA, was vice president of food safety at Walmart. And he firmly believes that we're actually, and the collective group, firmly believe that we're losing the battle of microbes. And microbes are the one that cause most of the foodborne illnesses, obviously. And therein lies the problem. We need to do more to make sure we have safe food. And granted, a lot of the problems we have with food safety is actually initiated in the home, surprisingly enough. It's not when we go out and eat at wonderful places like the Grand Chancellor in Launceston. It's actually more involved with what we do with the product once we take it home. Consumers in general abuse the product when they purchase it at a retailer by the time they get it home. How many people here buy chicken or fish, where's our salmon producer, and leave it in the car, pick up the kids, drive around for 45, 50 minutes, 2 hours, get home, forget it, 32 degrees, oh gee, we're having chicken for dinner tonight. And then undercook the chicken and wonder why they're a little bit sick for a few days. That's how we get 4.7 million cases of foodborne illness in Australia each year.
And a lot of the things that you're talking about really are about mindset change. Because you're saying there it's the last thing a grower thinks about. How do you change that culture and how do you ingrain it right from the start? You've talked about that leadership role. Who trains the leaders? How do you ingrain that culture?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, Claire. I'll probably answer this one quite easily in that and I'll talk about horticulture here more than anything else because that's where I spend most of my time. We need to move from primary producers to accepting ourselves as being food producers. And that's the most critical step that needs to take place. And once we shift that mindset, we all of a sudden start looking at the risks that are associated with growing our crops, be that chemical, be that microbial, be that pest incursion, and most importantly, people that we employ and ourselves as being the risks and managing those risks accordingly. So that's the thing that we need to do. We need to shift the mindset to being food producers and not just cucumber producers. That's the important bit.
And just very briefly, what is the end result of these farming operations when we do adopt a much stronger food safety culture? What will it look like?
Ooh, what does good look like? That's actually a difficult one to answer. And the reason why I'll state that is my studies and travel probably didn't give me what I was hoping to get from it. And I'll be blatantly honest about that. And fortunately, when I was at that conference, I got to talk to Frank when I was there. And I said to him, you know, I'm currently in the process of finishing off my Nuffield Scholarship on food safety culture, and I've got a bit of a problem. And I said, or outlined my responses of where I got to. And he said, good. He said, I'd be amazed and disappointed to hear a different result. So what does good look like? Good looks like something that ensures that when product leaves your farm, it is in the safest possible state that it can, and that you're doing everything that's possible.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Round of applause. Thank you. Thank you.